Okay, in this video we're going to talk about how to graph in the coordinate plane. Okay, so let's go over some vocabulary right quick. The coordinate plane, let's see if I got the right highlighter. Okay, the coordinate plane is the surface that is formed by the intersection of two number lines. Okay, what does that mean? The intersection. The intersection is where two things meet. And the two number lines that we're talking about is the horizontal number line and the vertical number line, also known as the x-axis and the y-axis. Remember that horizontal, that's like the horizon. You know that place where the sun sets? If you ever look off into the ocean and there's the sun setting right there. There's my sun. That line right there, that's called the horizon. Okay, so if that's the horizon, then the horizontal line, that's the line that we're talking about, is the line that goes left to right or right to left. That's the x-axis. The y-axis is the vertical line, and the vertical line is the opposite, the one that goes up and down. Okay, now if you look at this y-axis, the name of it tells you everything. Y, right? There's my y drawn right there. But if you look at it closely enough, on top of that y you have that little v. You see this little v right here? That V means it's vertical. So if you ever forget which one is the X and which one is the I, remember the Y is the one that has a V on top. That's the vertical. That's the one that goes up and down. Okay, and it's also tall, so that means it's going to go up and it's going to go down. Is the tall one. And the X-axis, that's the horizontal. That's the one that's laying down. So that's like the horizon. Okay. Now let's talk about the quadrants. The quadrants is the four parts that the coordinate plane is divided into. Okay, now this coordinate plane, this word right there, that can also be called coordinate grid. So you need to know both words. If I say coordinate plane or coordinate grid, I'm talking about the same thing. So the quadrant is the one that's divided into it's the four parts. Each one of the parts that it makes up the coordinate grid, and we're going to talk about that and how to label them 1, 2, 3, 4 in the correct order. And now here's the main thing. Here's what I want you to understand. The origin is the point where the two number lines intersect. Okay, that's the point where the two number lines meet. That's where we are always going to begin from. Okay, always begin at the origin. That's where everything starts. Okay, that's at the beginning. Now, if you want to know about the origin, another way of saying the origin is kind of where everything begins. Well, if you think about it, if we're talking about the universe, we're talking about the Big Bang. In science, there's a theory that everything started whenever one big star just exploded and all the universe was created. So if you care to know about the Big Bang, go watch this video right here that I pulled up. And type in this address into your web browser, and then you can go ahead and watch this video. It's only 3 minutes and 47 seconds long, so you can learn all about the Big Bang theory. And I'm not talking about the TV show. I'm talking about the actual Big Bang theory, the scientific theory of how everything came to be. Okay, and then we can talk about that tomorrow if you like to. But going back to the lesson, here's where we're at right here. So the origin is where everything begins. So now let's talk about the actual lesson. Here's the quadrants that I was telling you about. First, we need to label the x and the y-axis. Remember, the x-axis is a horizontal axis. So this is my x-axis, and that means that this one here is my y-axis. Now, the way that I like to teach this lesson is to number the quadrants in this sequence. 1 is right here. By the way, these are Roman numerals. This is Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, Roman numeral 3, and Roman numeral 4. These are the numbers that the Roman people, the ones that lived in Rome way back in the day, that started counting, that started doing numbers. Those were the numbers that they used, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and we can talk about Roman numbers later, but these are the four that you need to remember, because that's how we number the quadrants, with Roman numerals. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, the way that I always remember this is I always tell everybody to look at the point of origin, this point right here, the one where the x and the y intersect, where they meet. That's the point of origin. So if this is my origin, I'm going to draw a C around that point of origin. Okay? Notice the way that I drew it. I start right here and I go around this way until I finish in this quadrant. So if I start right here, this is going to be quadrant number 1. And if I keep drawing that C, I end up in quadrant number 2. And then if I continue, now I'm in quadrant number 3. And then when I finish, I end up in quadrant number 4. So this C right here, drawn around the origin, gives you the order of the quadrants. That way you're not tempted to number this one 1, and this one 2, and this one 3, and this one 4, which is the most common mistake, because you always want to go from left to right, and that's not the case in this coordinate plane. You want to number them from left, you want to number them right here, starting in quadrant number 1 and going to the right. And the shortcut that I always tell my students is that this is the number 1, right? This is like a capital I. So just remember the words I, and then that letter is a C. So if you remember the phrase I see, then you remember how to number all those quadrants. Start with the I right here. That's where you start, and then you draw your next quadrants. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. Hopefully this helps you. Okay? So little nifty tricks to remember how to do that. Now the pair of numbers that describe the location of a point in the coordinate plane are called the ordered pairs. These ordered pairs are always going to have an x and then a y. Okay, and the x number, that's called the x coordinate, because it tells you how many numbers you have to move along the x-axis. And the y is going to be the y coordinate, because it tells you how many numbers you move up or down on the y-axis, or on the x, or on the y direction, the up and down. Okay, so remember, x coordinate tells you to move left or right, and the y coordinate tells you to move either up or down. Those are the two things that you need to remember. And if you have a point, any point on the coordinate plane will have two numbers, the x coordinate and the y coordinate. Let's look at some of those points. Now we need to graph these order points, and we need to use these steps. First, we're going to start at the origin, because the origin, like I said before, is where everything begins. Kind of like that video I just told you about. If you watched it already, if you push pause and then you go pause on this video and then go watch that video on YouTube that I just showed you, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, then we're going to, after we start at the origin, we're going to move right to left, right or left on the x coordinate, and then we're going to move up or down for the y coordinate. And there's something missing in these notes. In these notes, you need to put another little note to yourself that if it's going to be a positive number, actually I'm going to erase that positive. I'm just going to put a plus sign. If it's a plus sign, if it's a positive number, that first number, then you're going to move to the right. But if it's a negative number, then you're going to move to the left on the x coordinate, on the x direction, okay? So if you have a positive, let me erase that right quick. So if you have a point, whatever that point is, if you have an x and then you have a y, remember, if it's a positive number, you're going to move to the right. But if it's a negative number, if that x is negative, then you're going to move to the left. Okay? So positive is right, left is negative. Same thing for the y. If it's going up, you're going to move up if the y number, the y coordinate, is going to be positive. But if the y coordinate is a negative number, then you're going to move down for the y coordinate. Okay, so let's put that to good use right here. It says graph the following points on the quadrant plane below. Then name the quadrant or the axis on which each point is located. Okay, so here's the coordinate plane. So let's go ahead and put these points on the coordinate grid. The first one is 3, 5. So I'm going to put 3 and 5 right now. The first number is a positive 3, so that's the x coordinate. So the x coordinate means I'm going to move positive 3 units to the right. Here's my origin, my point of origin. So I'm always going to start here, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 units to the right. Then I'm going to go up 5 units because my y coordinate is also a 5. It's a positive number. So 1, 2, 3 on the right, to the right, because that's the x coordinate. And then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my point A is located at this point right there. and I'm going to put an A on it because that's point A. Now this says to name the quadrant, and this is quadrant number 1. Remember the shortcut I showed you a bit ago? I, C. So this would be your I, quadrant number 1, and if you draw your C around it, then this tells you got to go this way. This is quadrant number 2, this is quadrant number 3, and this is quadrant number 4. So we ended up in quadrant number 1. So I'm going to put quadrant 1 right beside the point A. Okay, and now if we look at letter B, or point B, is -4 and 2 and 1/2. Now the way that I always tell my students to remember which way to move left and which way to move right, always think about an elevator. If you walk into a big old building that has many floors, you're going to have to ride an elevator, right? If you don't want to go walk up the stairs. So if you're walking into the building, this is you right here walking into the building, the first thing you have to do is go find the elevator. So once you are into the building, pretend you're right here in the origin. So you need to go find the elevator. You have to walk to the right or you have to walk to the left till you find your elevator. And the elevator is going to be sitting at the first number. This -4, that's where your elevator is. So I'm going to walk to the left because it's a negative number. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's your elevator right here. Maybe I drew my person too big, huh? Let me erase all this real quick. Okay, I'm going to draw my tiny little person right here. There's my tiny little person. And I'm going to walk 4 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my elevator is sitting right here on -4. There's the elevator. So now that I've located my elevator, now I'm going to push this button right here. And that button is 2.5. So that means I'm going to go up 2.5 floors. Because that's a positive number, that's why I move up. So now that I push my 2.5 button, I know that's a little weird, 2.5. But that's exactly what you need to do. You need to go from this point, you need to go up 1 unit, 2 units, and a half. So the actual point would be right here. So where it's right between the 2 and the 1/2. There it is. And if you get confused on what numbers these are, go ahead and label this. This is going to be a number 1, this is a 2, that's a 3, that's a 4, that's a 5, that's a 6. So if you're going left, you're going to go -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. And if you're going up and down, it's the same thing. If you're going positive, you're going up. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then this one's on the bottom is going to be -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and -6. So now you know where to find B. There's B right there. And this is in quadrant number 2. So now let's look at C. C is 3, -1. So that means you go over to the 3. Here's the elevator now in this problem. Okay, and you don't have to draw an elevator. I'm just showing you the shortcut. Of course, I just want to see the points. And then this shortcut with the elevator is just to help you remember how to do it. You first have to walk to find the elevator. So we found the elevator on that +3. And this is -1. So that means we're going down 1 floor. So here's my floor number 1. So see how this is my number 3, and if I go down to the -1, there's a -1, so I'm going straight down. So there is point C, and that is in quadrant number 4. Okay, quadrant 4 is an I and then a V, and we'll talk about Roman numerals more in detail later. But this is what you need to remember: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I want you to go ahead and put the rest of them, D, E, F, G, and H, on this coordinate grid. I want to see if you can finish this by yourself tomorrow, okay? And then here says name the coordinates of each point. Here they're going backwards. They give you the points and they want you to name the coordinates, the X and the Y. So this is a lot easier than the other one because here all you have to do is count. Notice that this is a 2 and that's a 4. So that means that between 0 and 2 that has to be a 1, and between 2 and 4 that has to be a 3. Same thing going backwards. This would be a -1, that's a -3. Going up, same thing. That's a 1 and that's a 3 because that's a 2, 3, 4. And then here we have a -1, -2, -3, and -4. So if we're looking for point A, that means we're going to start at the origin. We're going to start right here. And we're going to move 4 units to the right. So the first coordinate is going to be a +4 because we move to the right. And then we're going to be moving 2 units up to get to point A. So that's also a positive number. So that means that my Y coordinate is going to be a +2. And those are the coordinates for point A. Now let's do point C. Point C is over here on quadrant number 3. So I'm going to start with going to the left. Let's see how many units I'm going to start on the left. Start at the origin, I'm going to go left all the way over here. That's 5 units. And then I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3 units. So that's where I end up. So the first number that I did was the x-axis. That's the x-coordinate. 5 units to the left. So that's going to be a negative 5 because I went to the left. And then the second number was a, let me get that orange going right here. The second number was 3, and it was 3 down, so that's a negative 3. So that's where the numbers come from. I put those in the wrong number, right? Those should be on C, not on B. So I apologize for that mistake. There's going to be negative 3 for the y-coordinate, and it was negative 5 on the x-coordinate. So those are the points. Now you get to do B, and you get to do D. See if you can find those coordinates. Okay, now here's an application problem. Laura is trying to draw a square on a coordinate grid shown below. And there's the coordinate grid. Which ordered pair names the missing vertex of the square? So here you have to know what this vertex word means. Vertex means corner, right? So we're looking for the corner. So if this is a square, this is going to be a square, then our point has to be right here so that we can make the square, right? And if this is going to be the point right here, then we're looking at the point. Remember, first you have to find your elevator. So if you're sitting right here, the elevator, you're going to have to move to the left to get to this point. So the elevator is sitting right here on negative 2. So the first one has to be on negative 2. That's right, that's right, that's wrong, and that's definitely wrong. So it's going to be either A or B. Now we're going to have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So that's going to be a positive 4. So it's not going to be negative, so that means that B is going to be the answer choice that we need. Okay, that's that application problem. And that's it. That's all we have. So tomorrow we're going to work on graphing a lot of these points. We're going to have to find this point. So make sure you remember the elevator. Make sure you remember the origin. Make sure you remember how to name the quadrants. And you can use these notes for tomorrow's worksheet if you have it ready and are ready to go when you get to class. Thank you for watching.